Good evening, everyone. Before I introduce myself, I wanted to start off by thanking Michael and Keith for their talks and sharing their insights. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Thomas Burton, the co-founder of the St. Andrews Technological and Innovation Club, Static, and we're thrilled to be co-hosting the third BlockStart Scotland Building Blocks event in partnership with the St. Andrews Blockchain Society. Static members, this evening represents the intersection of technology and innovation that we are all so passionate about. Blockchain is transforming how we think about digital systems and entrepreneurship. Tonight's panelists will showcase the developments that bridge academic theory with real-world technological solutions. As the largest independent student STEM publication in St. Andrews, this event speaks directly to our club's core mission of understanding transformative technology. I would now like to hand over to Osian, who will give you an overview of the Blockchain Society and introduce our panelists in more depth. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Osian Guthrie, President of St. Andrews Blockchain Society. First of all, massive thank you to Colin and our speakers for taking the time to come up here in person. I know St. Andrews isn't the most accessible place, so I really appreciate that. Yeah, a bit more about Blockchain Society. A pretty new society founded last year by Finn Anderson, who left. But he saw that there was no real outlet for kind of Web3 and crypto in St. Andrews. So we're kind of trying to further that this year. And yeah, I think our mission is really just to further blockchain education within the university and also leverage the opportunities, or the abundance of opportunities within the space, including the BlockStart, but also I think something maybe Colin might mention at the end, specific to St. Andrews, which I think can be a great opportunity for developers here. Speaking of developers, we released publication for kind of an investment side of blockchain, but also a more general side of blockchain, and we're really trying to build out the engineering side of the society, particularly with it in mind to potentially decentralize the society, decentralize voting rights and governance rights within the society by forming a decentralized autonomous organization, which will need quite a large engineering base for. So if there are any developers here that find that exciting or find that interesting, then do get in touch with me afterwards or online. But I think, yeah, without further ado, let's get into the panel with our speakers. First of all, if you guys would just like to introduce yourselves and your companies as well, that'd be great.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nikos. I'm the CMO and one of the founders of Hubs.io, and we are specialising at the moment in the Telegram platform, which we'll deep dive into in a little bit. My background is actually, like most people in crypto and Web3, is completely unrelated to it. I was in property conservation for 20 years, and I was a leverage trader for about 10 years in Forex before I then made my way over to Web3 through a sort of side door of Revolut when we started teasing people with crypto coins and getting our attention. So I made the move over probably around 2017. I changed career and fell in love with the sort of marketing side of what these guys are doing. So like we was saying earlier, they build it, we try and bring it to the masses, which is not easy. Like St. Andrews, crypto's not accessible either. So it's been one of the big challenges that we face. We're trying to always, I guess, build a narrative around the story of cryptocurrency, Web3, blockchain, make it more relatable. So that's something I'm quite passionate about. It's something, with Hubs we're trying to change. We'll get into that in a little bit. So thank you for inviting us and for having Hubs and myself up here in St. Andrews.
Hi there, my name is Andrew. I'm the founder of against building a UK domiciled regulated pound-backed stablecoin. Stablecoins have really come to the fore in the last sort of second half of this year, and it's key now that we have a domestic settlement instrument in the UK. One thing that we get really excited about isn't necessarily crypto, so to speak, but is bringing the existing financial services as they get tokenized and come on chain. We need to ensure that we have that liquidity. So yeah, maybe slightly less degen than some of the other projects in the room tonight. But we certainly want to play our part within the ecosystem, and just to reflect on some of the stuff that Michael said in the previous presentation. There's a lot of that rings true. Going away and building something is the best thing that you can do. Being prepared to fail is actually really healthy, and being accepting that is actually a probable result. If, for example, look at how many, taking points, for example, how many actually just go to zero, how many go to $1 billion. A lot of things in the industry don't work, and in actual fact, you could almost argue that you could learn more from that. My first experience in the ecosystem in 2021 when I worked for a DeFi hedge fund came to an abrupt end in November 2022, so most of our money was on FTX. And you learn things the hard way, and reflecting back, there's a lot from being involved in that project that I've taken into this project, and I guess the best way that I talk to we're fundraising at the moment, and when I'm talking to VCs, I say basically tell me everything that I don't want to be in crypto, and it kind of rings true. But having gone through that, and as Michael said, eating glass and really crawling through it as well, and then getting some hot coals chucked over you, you come out the other side a better person. So yeah, if any of you do have any ideas, it's a lot more straightforward to go and find a team than actually to go and create something, and building something is the best thing you can go do.
Yeah. I already introduced myself, but if you have a really short-term memory, mine's Michael here. I'm a founding engineer at Helium, and build a lot of other things as well.
Cool. So first question for Nikos. We know that Telegram is the messaging app of choice for the crypto community. What are the main benefits you see from building on the Ton blockchain, and what are the unique features that set Hubs apart from building methods?
Well, I guess first thing is show of hands for who's either heard of Telegram or used Telegram. Exactly, most people in the room. And I think for us at Hubs, about probably a year ago, we started exploring the potential, the underappreciated potential that we thought Ton had as a blockchain, and obviously the massive 950 million monthly active users that Telegram has. I'm not sure how many people understand or know, but there's a crypto wallet now built into your Telegram. So if you have Telegram on your phone, you have a wallet on your phone. And we just saw this as a massive potential as a company to reach a wider audience. And as I talked about at the top of the panel here, introducing ourselves, one of the problems that I see on a personal level then with my team also is actually reaching a broader audience with a lot of the great products and services that we're trying to build. And if you're looking for a sort of meaning, to me, of what crypto is and what Web3 is, it's aspirational. It teaches us to dream. But like these guys, and Colin said this to me in the car on the way up tonight, you have to sort of earn your stripes. Carl saying that to me. I've had my fair share of really dark times from Web3 and crypto as well. And it leads you to a point where you either leave it or you actually fight for change. And for us, when we saw the integration of the Ton blockchain, which is the open network, onto Telegram, we thought, this could be actually something that makes the change. And the reason being, one of the difficulties is accessibility for people getting their head wrapped around moving tokens from one chain to another chain. Then how do they use it in real life? What is the use case that they can use this for? And Telegram has done a fantastic job of firstly being a messaging tool and now going beyond messaging and actually now inviting people to utilize services like games and applications. And that's the part that Hubs are trying to solve. We've seen this opportunity. There's a massive distribution issue when it comes to blockchain-based applications and getting them out there across the globe. And the fact that you've got something now like a wallet built into common messaging service that the show of hands obviously demonstrates there that most people are familiar with. Looking at use cases now that are starting to emerge in the Far East, there's an application called Tada, which is effectively the Singapore version of Uber. And they've done a very clever marketing ploy very recently where they, with Ton, in conjunction with Ton, they actually offered everyone their first ride with Tada a discount of 50% if they use their Ton wallet on their phone. Now, we've done two things. One, it got people questioning about crypto and what it is and how they can get hold of it. But it also taught people that had Telegram that they had a wallet there. So for us at Hubs, we saw this as an opportunity because now, for the first time, through a messaging service, you're bringing your community on chain. But that then created a gap and a niche in the market where we thought about the fact that the world now depends on information and data. We heard Keith talking earlier on about the contribution of information to networks, and what we're all doing every day is effectively data. Data is a commodity the way we see it, and one of the things that's missing in the back of all of this process was the actual understanding of that information. So one of the things Hubs does is it plugs it into a Telegram group and allows the group owners to actually bring their community on chain, so they can actually connect their wallet within the Telegram community, and in return the end user can now start to actually see the behaviours, the patterns of behaviour, the swap activity, the way people hold tokens, what they hold, and all of these data points allows them to paint a picture of their audience. That's very, very useful for anyone who's been building. Will understand that it's very difficult to make a lot of data-driven decisions in other aspects of technology and other parts of life. In crypto, we don't. It's been something that's been missing from the space ever since I came along, but there's a real lack of data and information. So one of the things we're solving with Hubs is that missing piece, and in return, I worked in the privacy sector deep in for quite some time, and I actually was so championing privacy for so long. I understood at the end of it all that that's not what people care about. People just care about the misuse of their information. And if someone gives information, it makes the experience better at the end of it all. So we're actually now trying to encourage people to share their information, a bit like what Keith was talking about earlier on, where you own the information yourself and in return you get something back. So the on-chain analytics is something we're quite passionate about. We think we can make a change to Telegram, and we do believe that we'll see quite a shift in the coming months and probably a year ahead. So watch this space.
Yeah, thank you for that. For Andrew now, can you tell us a bit more about your journey into crypto and your motivations for starting a stablecoin, and also a bit about the lessons you've learned so far?
Yeah, and just quickly before I get to that, I'll just touch on something that Nico said about data-driven decisions in crypto, and it's so true. A lot of the data doesn't exist. So I mean, if any of you are thinking about something to go and build something in data and crypto and bring the two together and find a way to convey that information accurately, and you'll do very well. So my journey into crypto, it was a bit of a funny one. So my first job was actually working, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Kettle Produce that's just outside of Cooper. So I worked on the procurement desk there, buying and selling carrots. That was the first thing that I did out of uni. So I can almost guarantee that if you ate a carrot in 2017 or 2018, it probably went through us at some point during the year. I really got into blockchain in 2020 when the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum just completely disintegrated after COVID. That's when my interest really picked up, because I was like, oh, what's this and why is it all gone wrong? And then DeFi summer of 2021, I was significantly sleep deprived, just basically farming on Jupiter and Radium and Solana. I got massively into Solana, and when something's yielding like 2,000%, you get pretty hungry, but when you're 3 times leverage, you also don't sleep very much. And then I fell into working for a DeFi hedge fund kind of by accident. We raised 27 million in November 2021. Again, we didn't really expect to raise that much, just the way that the ecosystem was. Bitcoin was just off its all-time high, and everyone was pretty hyped about everything that was going on. And the strategy that we worked on at that point was arbitraging funding rates. So I don't know how many of you are on any centralized exchanges or decentralized exchanges that have pairs, but you'll see that there's a funding rate that's charged, and you can arbitrage that cross exchange and hedge out against spot prices. So we were doing that for a year. But like I say, that came to an abrupt end when FTX blew up. So Alameda were one of the investors in the project, and our founder had actually texted a couple of people there on Sunday night before everything went over to ask if our funds were okay, and we got the okay back, and then by the Tuesday night I didn't have a job. So that didn't go very well. But I actually came out of crypto, and it's probably the best thing that happened to me in that November. I ended up working in the traditional finance space and payments, and international payments to be specific, and what it taught me was just how poor the payment system is. So we're kind of spoiled in the UK with faster payments. For retail payments, we don't really know that. We feel like our money moves instantly, but in actual fact, our money doesn't move at all. All our money sits in the Bank of England, and it's just a ledger transaction between two banks, which is reconciled every 8 hours. But when you want to move money internationally, there's actually a massive issue at the moment, because it's like railways. We're on one gauge, and everyone else is on another gauge, and there's not that interoperability between systems. So you get this massive friction. What blockchain allows you to do and what stablecoins allows you to do is it brings this homogeneous layer that funds can move, cross-border, and the frictions don't exist. You're not restricted by banking hours. You're not restricted by borders. You're not restricted by banking systems. So you just have this homogeneous settlement layer that sits above everything, and that is going to be completely transformative to the financial system entirely for a number of reasons. I'm not sure if any of you are massively into finance, but you might have seen that the US has recently moved to T+1, and how that's a really big deal, and that a lot of people are sort of losing sleep over how they're going to be able to service that. We're already on instantaneous settlement. You see people tokenizing assets like Vanguard or Aberdeen or BlackRock or Fiddle. At the moment, the fiat piece, the cash settlement leg still moves on the traditional rails, and the tokenized asset moves in the blockchain. Bringing stablecoins onto the blockchain allows the cash leg and the asset to both move on the same set of rails, and that's a massive, that's a huge innovation. It's been said, a number of times. Look at fintech over the last 15 years. The UI, the innovation in the UI has been immense. The apps that we interact with, the user experience and the interface is absolutely amazing, but the back end has just been stitched together. We're still using legacy systems from 20 odd years ago that haven't really innovated. Blockchain just brings that the back end innovation to the same level as the front end.
So let me get this straight. So you saw crypto crash by 90%. You're like, that's what I want to get myself into.
100%. I mean, when everything's going wrong, that's generally when opportunities arise, and that's when I bought one. That's when I bought. Went heavy into crypto, because it's look at when the global financial crisis or blockchain crashing, or like SVB going over. When something goes chaotically wrong, it's generally when something breaks. That's generally when you see an opportunity.
Before you arrived, I was telling the guys exactly the same. Is that what we're saying? Very, very thing.
Yeah. Well, speaking of payments, as the founding engineer of Helio, how was it for you being a company with such explosive growth over 2 years? And what do you think the main reasons were for that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of how it was, I mean, it's great fun. It's great fun growing. When you're running business, you're either growing or dying. Being stagnant is just dying. Explosive growth is always fun. It comes with a lot of risk associated with it. You're always going faster than anyone else can keep up. When you're building really fast, there's certain things that you often kind of lack as a product of that. Maybe you have to have some technical debt. Maybe you have to prioritize specific features. Maybe you have to forfeit security a little bit. But it's kind of the risk that you need to take when scaling so quickly. I mean, as to the reason why I felt we scaled so quickly, I mean, in retrospect, I think it was pretty obvious where before it was incredibly hard to sell anything in crypto. You know, there wasn't really like a Shopify, like a Stripe you could go to and just create like a pay link. Let's say like I want to sell this microphone, just go on Helio, create like a page, it takes like 2 minutes, and then you can just start accepting payments for your microphone. And everyone wanted that. Like everyone wants to sell in crypto. The UX was like too difficult, and yeah, it just became like a 10x UX improvement. When you get 10x improvements, you generally kind of create new markets and tap into existing markets. And like our customers were just coming from everywhere. You know, we didn't have a specific like target market. I mean, for example, now we have like plugins with Shopify, so we power like stores that sell coffee. We power stores that sell like Lamborghinis, so like Rolex watches. So like anywhere you want to sell crypto, people do it on Helio. I think that's one of the reasons why we scale so well. Just offer a 10x better UX solution. You get people using it.
Okay, cool. So the Nikos again. We're seeing, especially in the last 10, 15 years, a massive shift towards online communities, not only crypto, but also like gaming, and not only Telegram, but also on X as well. So how do you kind of see that playing out in the future? And like what role do tools like hubs play also in that?
Yeah, I think it speaks for itself at the moment. There's a huge monumental shift happening in the way people come together online, and I think the gaming industry has a big part to play in that, even before blockchain. I think it's one of the key parts that we see at Hubs as well, is we have to go beyond messaging now. People demand more from their communication platforms. They demand something. One of the things synonymous with the crypto industry, for example, is rewards. Everyone's incentivization can do anything anymore, and that becomes a bit of a challenge when you're actually trying to build something tangible and organic and real. But unfortunately, you do have to understand that behind everything, Michael definitely just spoke about the growth there. It comes from a community. You have to build a team, not only in terms of your physical team you build your product, but a team of supporters round about your project and your vision. I think the part that really now that we see at Hubs is making spaces accessible and exclusive. And unfortunately, we talk about platforms like X and Telegram. One of the biggest challenges that everyone is facing at the moment is scam accounts, low quality accounts, and I guess things like people that are airdrop hunters, people that are looking for rewards every day, especially from economies that are obviously less fortunate than ours. And while that's a very real part of society, it's also one of the fundamental components that can have a detrimental impact on community spaces. So one of the things that we've done at Hubs is created a feature called Gatekeeper, which gives utility back to things like NFTs and tokens, and only allows verified users to enter a space. In turn, these spaces can become things like digital venues, so we no longer see them as just flat messaging spaces. We see them as full dynamics, vibrant communities that can then come on-chain, as I spoke about earlier on, connect to your wallet, and now you can do things like events. And we actually had our first inaugural event last week with Onton, which is a revolutionary sort of seamless event platform on the Ton blockchain. We had sold over 700 tickets using the Ton coin. They came through our Gatekeeper, which meant every user that purchased with Ton was issued with an NFT, and only anyone with the NFT could enter the space. The quite funny thing that happened was we got a few complaints in the first hour because people said they entered and they were kicked out of the space. We said that's because you was trying to send the wallet to the NFT to a friend. They didn't like that. We're saying that's the whole point. It's a ticket verification system. So we're shifting mindsets and trying to change the way people think. And we got a bit of blowback for doing the right thing. The reality is, 90% of people there, I think they really bought into what we were doing. And we turned that into a full-blown event. We had one of the leaders from the Ton Society there, Jack Booth, There was speakers from across the ecosystem. But the one thing that got was there was a significant amount of really impressive giveaways, PlayStations, iPhones, and everything like that. And what it done was really showcase the power of a Telegram chat room as more than just a messaging community. It got people in there, it got people talking, communicating a few days before it. And in return, we turned it into an event. And I think we see the bigger potential there to do things like online gigs, and for creators to then be able to use these spaces to deliver their content, and in return receive revenue for their content, because monetization of content is a big thing. I see people all the time, they're using platforms now. Everyone's became a graphic designer, everyone's became a musician. Online, you can do with these third-party applications very fast, but it's very difficult to monetize that. And I actually think through platforms like Telegram and having features like ours with Gatekeeper, where you have only verified audiences coming in there, I think we can really kind of look to the future of these as being dynamic Web3 digital venues, as opposed to old-fashioned forums, which is what they were before.
Sweet, yeah. So on the topic of user experience, Andrew, how important do you think user experience is like driving adoption into crypto, and what role do you think stablecoins can play in that too?
I mean, I think it's everything. It's the reason that I used Solana in 2021, during DeFi summer, rather than being on Ethereum, because I actually found Ethereum really complex, because there's all these layer 2s and all these different protocols, and you had to create different types of different tokens to then restake and then use. Whereas I went over to Solana and I downloaded a Phantom wallet, and there's just this massive degree of simplicity. And it felt very straightforward. There was, and that was reflected as well in the user experience that you had on, staking protocols and using things like Jupiter as an aggregator, or Dextron or Bird Eye to go and look at new tokens and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's very important, and I think what we'll see now is the abstraction of blockchain, the abstraction of blockchain away from the user interface, where we won't actually have wallet addresses, we'll have usernames. And the UI will look very similar to traditional, particularly in fintech, to traditional fintech apps. And you're seeing that over on Telegram already, by bringing it into an app that we use for something else. There's this disconnect that, on-chain and off-chain are going to be seamless. A lot of people talk about, we refer to different stable coins, for example, as a USDC, USDT, or our token once it's launched GBP8. I want to get to the point where we just talk about USD, or we just talk about GBP. We don't necessarily know or need to know the asset with which we are, carrying out this service. So, a lot of firms that we're working with, for example, on the payment side, that's what they're trying to do. And so, when we launched with them, you'll just see GBP, because really it's actually their concern, that the asset with which they're using to carry out the performance. All the user really cares about is, well, if they want to send some money to their friend, for example, that the money moves. And it's the same thing, when we've been talking to fund managers, they've been saying, oh, well, so how are we going to communicate to our client that we're settling them on the blockchain? It's like, you don't. You tell your client that you can sell your ETF just now, or you can have the funds in their bank account just now. That's actually what's going to matter. So yeah, I mean, as soon as that piece starts to be integrated, to a higher level and to a higher degree, I think that's when you start to see more adoption in sort of the ecosystem. But I think what you'll also see is you'll see this extrapolation between crypto and technology that is powering or using the blockchain, or a blockchain to carry out what needs to do. And just to answer the last part of your question on stablecoins, where do stablecoins come in? And it is in that second part for businesses that want to carry out a specific service where there's a pain point, whether they need to do it faster, cheaper, more secure, or they want to attach programmability, because at the moment, traditional payment systems, they're not actually payment systems, they're just a bunch of messages. And so now what we're seeing is actually the physical the physical movement of funds, but also the adaptability in that as well.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right there. I think like the analogy I like to use is like, imagine you go to Greg's, right? You buy sausage roll, and like sausage roll like £2, £1, and then they have like a £10 fee. What, like £12 for a sausage roll? That's kind of expensive now. And you go type your card, and you have to stand there for like 5 minutes until you get your sausage roll, like this in the queue. Like that's basically a theory. Like, that's a theory. So like you need to scale. You need to use like there's especially payments needs to go up, get a whole lot better before we end up adopting the masses. That's kind of the vision of Hubert.
On a similar topic then, could you speak a bit more about pump fun and like I know there's been some controversy around it, but equally it's quite a revolutionary idea. Maybe going back to like the ICO era in a sense. So could you talk a bit about that and also speak about how Moonshot can kind of take some market share and how bullish it was on Moonshot?
Yeah, sure. Wait, so how many people here know what pump fund is again? Your hands up? Okay, like kind of half the room. I'll explain for the rest. So basically, pump fund's like a launchpad where you can create your own token. Before it took like a lot more of a process to create tokens, but now you can actually create one in like 2 minutes. And they have like no utility; it's just for trading things like this. Anyway, like in terms of pump fund, like my personal opinion is, from like a builder perspective, I mean it's pretty awesome. Like it's like I said, like 3 kids from Oxford Uni, they're building it like from like their dorm or something. It's kind of like a Facebook movie in a sense. And yeah, I don't know if you've seen like the UI, right? But like the UI, it looks like it's been made by like a 10-year-old. It's like terrible. But like that's like that's like part of the vibe. That's kind of what drives the users. It's definitely like a kind of a hub for degens, for crazies. I mean, like, yeah, I think in terms of the recent use, so for those who don't know, like Pump Fund actually had to take down their live stream feature. So they had a feature where you could live stream your token, associated with your token. Anyway, there was like some like crazy live streams. Some are like honestly like actually like really bad. Like, I can tell them 100%. You guys can like go on your phone and like figure out what I'm talking about. But I mean, actually, maybe there's a couple of guys over there. They were doing some of the live streams. I don't know. Some DJs for sure. But yeah, they had to disable that, and yeah, 100% condemn that. I mean, on Moonshot, like we don't have live streams. Yeah. We don't have live streams. It's a lot more like people see Moonshot as like the more kind of like premium pump fund, but the market doesn't want a premium pump fund. That's why we have the 1% of the market share. So what we're doing is we're putting like a lot of focus into scaling it. We've learned like a lot of things. We're gonna go hard on, like I said, making the UX really good, making it like more fun. That's kind of what drives the users. Yeah, I think one other thing is like, I'm saying this to the camera, but people actually don't like Pump Fund. Like that's like kind of some alpha. Like if you talk to any of the big projects, they actually hate Pump Fund because Pump Fund like suck like millions and millions of dollars of liquidity from crypto. Yeah, like 200 million in fees or something crazy like this. Also, this is a cool story actually. So they made it from Oxford Uni, right? But they didn't have an incorporated company, right? So like they just had like, they were like 3 students or something. They had like 100 mil just sitting in a wallet, like $1,000 or something. Pretty crazy. But yeah, sorry, back to the question. So yeah, like I'm definitely 100% bullish on Moonshot. I mean, like, kind of go Moonshot. So I'd be stupid if I was like bearish. But yeah, we're gonna do some great things for sure, and we're really trying to make it like a fun platform, also a safe platform. You know? So we're not gonna have those live streams that you see in these.
Yeah. And it's interesting what Michael said, you know, about the UI at Pump Fund. You know, a now friend of mine launched one of the largest staking protocols on Solana, and when they shipped it, it didn't even have a withdrawal button. And I think like the story to that is, you know, obviously don't ship something that users can deposit funds but not withdraw. But the point is actually just building something and putting it out there and seeing what happens is actually the best thing that you can do. And you know, that was like the 8th project that they worked on before they finally had a successful one. You know, it did nothing from 2021 until the end of 2022, but it was still live. And so yeah, I mean, like it kind of comes back to building what you're doing as well. You know, this iteration might not work, but you're going to keep building, you're going to keep doing things, and you know, like Helio is only a matter of time until you flip the coin and it lands. You know, tails up 3 times and you're bet comes in.
Right. I mean, so I think your friend like building the only buy function, like I think that was intentional.
Okay, so well, let's talk now a bit about like the regulatory landscape and regulations in general, particularly within the UK. I mean, we've seen quite a lot of progress, like in the US recently. But for each of you, kind of like what your experiences been with your companies, like with the UK regulator, and whether there's still any improvements. And also maybe touch on the differences in the regulations between England and Scotland.
I'm going to just point to this guy down here to tell you why we need regulations. Talking about pump fund and everything goes with it, it's difficult because I think the reason we've seen such a rise in regulations and regulatory bodies having a problem with blockchain crypto is undeniably obvious. You know, it's been a huge problem. For us, it's having a negative effect as well because directly we're impacted by the fact that the wallet I told you guys about on Telegram, for instance, is blocked in the UK at the moment. It's not a Scottish problem, it's a UK problem. The FCA have stepped in there and said, you know, we want to bring that further. I mean, there's no secret. Telegram's founder has been incarcerated. Aldo's been arrested, and there's probably some sort of sanctions in place because of relationships between Russia and the UK and different audiences. We try not to care too much about that. I think when it comes to the regulations in general, I just feel we need more of them. That's quite simple. I think we need to get to a point where we don't celebrate degeneracy. I don't think, as a guy who's been in this space for a long time, I don't think it's fun. I've seen too many people lose too much money. I don't know what it is. I haven't figured out why that culture exists. I still don't know what it is. People seem to celebrate losing money in crypto Web3. I don't. I'm one of the guys that stands quite firmly against it. I'm quite vocal about the fact that one of the reasons we're not seeing adoption and mass adoption is because of that percentage of the market that gets the most notoriety. Meme coins being the big one at the moment, but in the past we've seen it with NFTs on Solana in the last phase before it went down with the bear market. NFTs were huge on places like OpenSea, and I was literally watching guys every day just getting burned by like non-verified NFTs. And it's led to this point where, yeah, regulations is bringing it for the right reasons. And I think that there's a reason why we're seeing more of it. Obviously, you know, what's happened with the election in the US very recently. It's going to be interesting to see what the stance will be. I think a lot of the processes that will be put in place will probably be, I wouldn't say abolished, but they'll be sidelined for the moment. And I think they'll be relaxed quite significantly to allow people to start coming through. I think we were talking at the start about Elon Musk before everyone arrived, and the fact that, do you think he might have aspirations for an X token or something like that? I think previous governments in the US would not have allowed that so easily, and I think now that paves the way for guys like that to sort of do what they want with their own platforms. I guess the sky is the limit. So there's regulations needed, but I just hope that they're put in place for the right reasons and they're there to govern everyone with equity at the heart of it all. I'm not sure that will be the case. Wait and see.
Regulations, something that takes up a massive amount of my entire bandwidth. It's something that we talk about every day. It's something that we spend it's our largest daily, weekly, monthly expense is on compliance and becoming compliant and working out our avenues through the current regulatory regimes. I've sat across the table from both members of the Bank of England and the FCA to have these kind of discussions over why we need to regulate, how we should regulate, and what regulation seeks to achieve. It's one of these things that there's a massive education piece that needs to be done, and the regulators themselves need to spend a lot of time coming up to speed. And what's really unfortunate about what's happening at the regulators at the moment is compliance in all parts, especially the financial sector, is becoming the thing that drives the business. So anyone that is remotely talented at these organisations gets headhunted out very quickly. Just look at Matthew Osborne, who was leading digital assets at the Bank of England. He now works for Ripple. So yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I mean, for those of you that are interested in regulation, you should check out our LinkedIn. We published a response to the Bank of England discussion paper a couple of weeks ago with our thoughts over how the bank should be approaching the stablecoin regime and how they should be looking at how these assets should be governed. I mean, in theory, a stablecoin, the level of risk in a stablecoin is actually less than that of that of a bank. We hold our assets in Inkswell Trust over bankruptcy remote. They're invested in government gilts. Everything is backed one-to-one. A bank, everything isn't backed one-to-one. Not everyone can go to a bank tomorrow and get all their funds. That's just not how the fractional banking. That's how it works. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a massive education piece, and I think there's an education piece in wider society as well, and we need to extrapolate away, blockchain and services that operate on blockchain and crypto and cryptocurrencies, because they're not actually the same thing. They're, yes, the technology that they function on is similar, and certain bad actors act on blockchains that good actors are using, but in terms of regulations, I think that there's a mistake that you can make. I mean, if you look at the EU, you look at euro-denominated stablecoins, they've not performed at all. And I was in Brussels last week actually, and I was talking to 3 MEPs out there after a panel that they were doing, and every single one, including one of the MEPs that was involved in MICA, which is the European stablecoin legislation, admitted that they've completely over-regulated and that they've hampered innovation. So you always have this balance as to whether you allow, innovation first, then you regulate it, or you regulate to allow, to innovate and sort of. It's a really tricky balance. But I think the first part that everyone needs to start at is educating themselves and fully understanding the why it needs to happen.
Michael, any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think I probably have a bit of a different opinion as everyone else in regulation. I mean, right now, here we go. right now, it's a bit of an arena, right? It's a Wild West, and the builders have shipped way faster than the regulators can regulate. And I definitely agree that there's definitely some regulations that need to be implemented. They need to be done so very, very carefully though, because again, I feel like regulation is one of those things where it's everyone's happy with regulations until it's a regulation that doesn't benefit you, and then you're unhappy. I think as to your point on a lot of kind of the degen culture that's preventing kind of scaling in crypto. I don't think I'll necessarily agree. I think the biggest problem that's preventing scaling in crypto is a network effect, and also a UX improvement. I think whenever the crypto itself has a negative sentiment because the loudest speakers in the room are the ones that are shilling these crazy tokens. So that's what you hear when you think of crypto. But I think like crypto in the future is going to be abstracted, and most people using crypto are not even going to realize they're using it. It's going to basically be like the Swift banking system. No one really knows what that is, but it just gets used, and it's like it gets used by everyone. So I don't necessarily believe that like people don't use crypto because of the negative connotations. I think it's more just about improving the network effect and improving the UX, and making it like a layer that people even need to realize they're using.
And yeah, just one thing that I forgot to say, I think it's important we regulate outcomes. And by that I mean like, well, what actually happens when, A plus B minus X, what does that equal? It's the outcomes that necessarily need to be regulated, not necessarily the infrastructure or the ability for someone to do something. It's what are you trying to protect and who are you trying to safeguard?
That's kind of the point I was talking about when you look at the wallet, for example, on Telegram. They've literally singled out one wallet, and the fact that then you can just jump quite quickly onto an equivalent Torkeeper or TornHub and do the exact same thing. And there's obviously some sort of narrative or something happening behind the scenes that makes that the case. To Michael's point, I get what you're saying. There's definitely an exercise that has to happen on UX and everything. But I'm going on my own experiences of what people have told me. Crypto, scam, garbage, nonsense, rubbish, and it's because they've either been burned or heard of people being burned, and that's the part that has to change. I think that they're both true. It's just there has to be a shift somewhere, and the regulations coming in are necessary. But it's like what I said also, I do fear for how far regulation goes and who that stands to benefit. I think you guys both touch on that, and we align and agree on that. I think that's probably the consensus across the board, and that's the whole premise of why you want decentralization. I see it often. I think decentralization, blockchain, Web3 is the last chance for species to actually take back a bit of control for ourselves. And with regulation, too much of it takes away from the power of decentralization.
With Telegram then, like to what extent do you think it's kind of trying to be the everything app? That I think Elon Musk has talked about as well. And also you mentioned like Pavel Durov, I don't know if he got arrested. How much of an existential threat is that considered to hubs?
So I think the first part of the question, what was the first part you said there?
To what extent is it going to be like everything app?
I think everything the app, I think it's the everything app. Telegram is everything app because everything happens there. So whether it's a product launch or like a TGE, gamifying your community, the ANAs, talk sessions, it's all, in terms of Web3 crypto, it's always been happening there. You're seeing more of it going to other platforms, but it does have the potential. And then I say when you plug in Torn, the blockchain, the wallet built in, it does technically have, or theoretically have, the potential to do everything, which is why I see it as a bit of a super app. I don't think Hubs has got this. I mean, Pavel's situation, Durov, and what's going on there. I don't look at this as being a systemic risk for Hubs. I see it as a systemic risk for society. If we can pull down a whole system and Telegram can come down because some people don't like it, and you've got 1 billion users on that platform at the moment, I think we have a bigger problem culturally in terms of censorship and where we're going as a society. For me, this is a real-time use case for decentralization. I think that's what we're looking at right there, because if anything, Pavel's situation, the guy that created Telegram, should not be, the ethos with which he built that was decentralization and empowering the community. It wasn't about him as a person. And if we're to move forward, regardless of what happens to him, Telegram should have a strong enough community that takes over and decides the fate and future of Telegram. It shouldn't come down to what happens to one individual. And actually, we saw that with what happened to him. There was, I can't remember the number, but there was like a crazy spike in new monthly active users on Telegram when it was announced that he was incarcerated. So there's a huge movement now. I mean, Ton's whole ethos at the moment is about free battle, and the whole ecosystem has come together to actually try and unite behind this one individual. So we'll see where that goes, but I do feel like it's more of a case, actually strong case, for why we need decentralization rather than looking at it as a systemic risk for our project. Because as I say, if our project was down with Telegram, I think it would be a lot more. I think everyone is going to have a massive problem there.
I had a few more questions for you guys, but you feel like you kind of answered them. So should we move to the Q&A? Does anyone have any questions at all?
I had a question for Andrew. I was wondering how the company actually get money.
Yeah, something we ask ourselves every day. So basically, there's a number of ways that we can make money, but basically, the FCA, the way the regulations are written, we're not allowed to pass any revenue that we generate on the collateral back to the consumer. We can't be yield bearer. So yeah, it's the same model as Circle. However, we also distribute our yield through our partners, and they can then decide to do what they want with that cash. So yeah, it's just the backing assets we make a return on that. Initially we'll obviously be in government gilts and cash, but as the FCA's comfort levels with us once we're regulated increases, we'll get more adventurous to the backing assets that we hold. We're not going to go full tether, but yeah, we'll hopefully be somewhere.
I just want to thank the audience for this really inspiring and really appreciate it. And actually, this is a two-part question for Andrew. The first part is that with the recent Trump's campaign's incoming tax regulation, it's actually 10% around Europe and then 60% in China. Do you think, because you talk about international transactions for crypto, do you think in the future the crypto transactions are going to help to balance with those huge, increased tax that's placed? And the second part is, you mentioned about the regulation, how there should be a balance between the growth of crypto and the balance of what the regulation plays on. But from the past, I know that a lot of the crypto have been associated with illegal, international transactions. Do you have any practical solutions to how in the future that can be solved? Thanks.
Yeah, so I'm not a tax expert, and unless financial advice, don't sue me for anything that I say. But on the tax question, yeah, I mean, I think it would be interesting as to how the flow of funds works internationally. I think businesses are going to get more adventurous. There's other avenues that they can explore. Especially like take Singapore for example with USDG, I was going to say USDG. There's going to be a lot that flows through there. It's from a regulatory standpoint, it's welcoming. Internationally, it's also very receptive to organizations from the Far East and also from the West. So places like that, I think you're going to see become hubs, and the businesses are going to go down the Amazon and Apple route where we buy a charger in the Apple store in Edinburgh, but we actually pay someone in Dublin. So the funds never actually touch the jurisdiction where the tax regime is not as favourable. On the second question about sort of the illegality on chain, as an on and off ramp, everyone that we work with is going to be KYB and KYC. We have to, unlike a business like Circle, we have to accept anyone that passes. So there's no minimum on redemption, so we can take anyone. But once those funds go in chain, we work with a couple of different chain monitoring services. We don't work with chain analysis, but TRM and a firm called Range for basically transaction monitoring. We don't necessarily want to have that visibility, but from a client compliance standpoint, we need to. However, it's not really something that we actively do in the sense that we're watching every payment. Really, what happens is if someone comes back to us and they want to off-ramp those funds, we will run a search and we can see where those funds have flowed through and where those the protocols or the tokens that those wallets have interacted with, and if any have been flagged or if any have any made aware by any relevant authority that there's issues there, then we'll take that action. But that's not decisions that we made by us. That's decisions that we made by authorities, and we have to act on their behalf like any other financial institution we need to.
I was just wondering, what are your guys' methods to learn all the information? Because I feel as though every time I'm writing my articles or whatever, I keep finding I'm coming across stories that are contradicting each other. We're always wrong. I keep trying to dig into the citations to try to find better sources. But how did you guys come across this, and what sources do you really gain such good information from?
So I've got a microphone, so I'll start. In about 2015, I started following a Twitter account called Wall Street Playboys, which is now rebranded as Tyco. And shout out to those guys because they have literally changed my life. They published a book called Efficiency, which you can't get anymore, but I'm pretty sure you can find a PDF of it online somewhere. Go and read that, and it will literally change your life. I'm not one of these people that buy my course. I'm not one of those kind of people. But yeah, go on their Twitter account, read everything on it, read all their, subscribe to their Substack, read all of their Substacks, because these are basically guys that they were investment bankers in New York. They were involved in tech M&A. They came out of tech M&A, and there'll be plenty that you don't agree with. There's plenty that you write about that I don't agree with, but generally their macro view of how things work and the ecosystem that they've now built around themselves. There's value in it for everyone.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll check it out. I think in terms of my perspective, I think one really valuable platform is, like I said, X. Following the right people on X, you just give yourself a timeline of everything that's happening, and it always happens. X is the most recent source of information, and it always happens maybe weeks or months before retail pick it up. You just see things that are happening that other people don't realize are happening. Also, from more of a technical perspective, just how you get good, you just have to just constantly build. Sink tons of hours into it. One thing about crypto is it's relatively modern, so you can become an expert in a specific domain pretty quickly relative to other domains, as long as you just just push yourself. You'll be doing a lot of discovery that won't even be discovered before, just show a lot of class.
Just quickly on the way back to Nico, sorry. One thing I would say as well is find a project that excites you and go and get involved with them.
I was kind of going to touch on a bit what Andrew said here. I think one of the things that you should definitely be doing is actually find an area that you're interested in. It's play music. Obviously, I play guitar. I don't play jazz music. I like blues. I'm not going to go learn about jazz. I like blues. I can appreciate it, but I don't have to know about it. And I think it's the same here. It's a big, vast space. But it's also an infant space. A lot of the people that are experts, they're not experts. That's something I've learned. My thing has been actually just going out there and doing something. I mean, being involved in project launches, launching tokens, and being involved in a crazy time like that, you learn a lot, and it's experience. And I think honestly, even I was getting a bit inspired listening to Michael there. We're different ages, we're worlds apart in that sense, but we just went out into the world and done it. And I should wrote that off a few years ago when I realised, working in the job and doing something I don't really love, and I was more passionate for something else. I went freelance and then went into this world. That gave me actually so much in terms of confidence, but experience. And that's the takeaway. I don't think any person does have the answer. You can get ideas, you said yourself, it's contradictory. We've contradicted each other up here slightly. That's the whole point of dialogue. You need it two ways. It has to be two ways to get consensus and find a solution. So just don't be so stagnant in the sense that you have to listen to what someone's going to say. Just take it all in. but try and get involved. If you're passionate about this and you see blockchain has got a future and something that you want to do, get involved with the project. As Michael said earlier on, one of the learning curves this year is I hacked my way into an event via a hackathon. It was one of the crypto events in Barcelona was £1,000 an entry fee. So I applied to the hackathon, and I'm not a coder at all. And it was actually when I got there, I actually had so much more value than I realised, because it was like, you can design, you can market, you can pitch. And I went, well, actually it's a team they're looking for. I think the word hackathon is what threw me personally, and through that you meet different people and you meet different perspectives. So it's like anything I would say to anyone in life is just get involved and do something. Get up and do it. Don't spend too long reading the books, because it won't teach you everything.
I think that's been the biggest thing for me this year versus, in 2021, I basically spent my entire life on Discord in my bedroom. This year I've been on like 64 flights. I've been to Singapore, I've been to New York, I've been to Tampa, I've been to Miami. I've literally been all around the globe, like talking to all different people and meeting all different people. And through that's where opportunities come. Literally, if like Nico said, if you want to get involved, take yourself to a hackathon. Go to ETH Oxford in February. Go to a consensus is what makes fun to my mind. If you're a student, most student tickets are free. So like you can, apart from your travel, you can have nothing to lose. And at the end of the day, if you get sent a side event list, the parties are absolutely wild and all the drinks are free. I literally arrived in Singapore Monday night, and I got an advisor was for B2C2, and he invited me to the B2C2 event. I was at the top of the Marina Bay Sands in Sailor Bay, free bar all night. It's just like the most exciting. Honestly, it's like the scene out of Project X. I just like you cannot comprehend what's going on, but the value, like the actual conference that I went to was, I didn't get any value from that. The side events, that's where you meet all the people, you meet really good people, you connect in Telegram, and then 3 months down the line, you get a text from them to be like, oh, I was talking to someone and you sprung to my mind. Do you fancy speaking to them? And it just goes from there.
Do that yesterday.
Yeah. Actually, literally, Nico has connected me with someone, and we're now speaking on Tuesday.
I was at an event in Dubai 3 weeks ago at the same time. Meet someone, and I don't do stable coins, but this guy built the Euro stable coins, built the GBP, and it makes sense to communicate. So, but you just have to be out there doing it. Simple.
Also, I will say one thing, like, you're always gonna feel like a beginner in crypto, even if like you know a lot. There's so much like shit going on, like so many new projects that like if you go to an event, right, like you see so many companies you've never seen before. And people will be like, oh, you heard like something? You're like, yeah. You have no idea what to do. And then if you go in 6 months' time, like a lot of the companies go bankrupt. So there's like a whole other set of companies. There's you're always going to hear things and hear names and company names and like technologies that you've never heard before in your life. And that is just kind of crypto, to be honest.
But also as well, that when you go to all these events, you very quickly realize that most people, they actually only have like 5 or 6 talking points, and that's all they have each week. They're rinsing and repeating. And also what Michael said about new projects, there's always another project that's raised more money or has more users, etc. So also, you kind of just need to just focus on what you're doing and keep doing you and stay consistent, and people realize that and take notice.